time for 2015. We missed a bunch of top 10 lists when we started this podcast. We're going back and making good on them now. A few honorable mentions to start. Funny enough, so the last time we did this, we did 2013. I said, Jake, why isn't Tangerines on your list? You said it came out in the States in 2015. I said, okay, I'm doing it for 2013. But an honorable mention for me is the movie Tangerine by Sean Baker. So this is, I think, his earliest movie that I've seen. I know he did a couple before this, but this is the first one that I saw. Or not the first one that I saw, but the earliest one that I've seen. It's good, about a trans person just having a hard time. Pretty much, that's what a lot of his movies are about, people on the fringes of society having a hard time. This is about a very poor trans prostitute having a very hard time, period. Very good. Kind of harrowing, but good. The Martian came out this year, I think is really great. Something that deserves a little bit more attention because I think most people haven't seen it is a movie called People, Places, and Things. It's a movie by Jim Strauss, starring Jermaine Clement, where he has to take care of a couple of kids. I mean, they're his kids, but it's a really sweet movie about being a dad. Meru is a great documentary about climbing Meru. It's by the guy who did Free Solo, but you don't have to deal with a main character who's a jerk, so it's a nicer viewing experience. Diary of a Teenage Girl is a movie I know you like a lot.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Love and Mercy, I'm bet is going to be pretty high on your list, but I saw that recently and liked it quite a bit. I think Paul Dano is amazing in it, and John Cusack is pretty good in it, and Elizabeth Banks, who knew?
Yeah, she's great. And I think that movie, I'm just spoiler, I'm just going to say it's in my honorable mentions list, but I think that movie has maybe the best recording studio sequence, maybe like I've seen in any movie, like just watching him like create that music in the studio. That was like the most like, okay, I get the Brian Wilson thing. Like you kind of like really get a sense of like what he was doing and why it was so like unique and cool. And I think they really captured that extraordinarily well in that movie.
I agree. It's such a cool scene. And also, I mean, it just will make you want to listen to the Beach Boys over and over and over again. We watched the Beach Boys documentary after this, and now because of how I forget who one of the Beach Boys, one of the like later replacement Beach Boys, how he called the album Pet Sounds, putting the accent on sounds. I can't stop hearing. I go, oh, you want to listen to Pet Sounds?
Pet Sounds. Yeah.
And then we watched the Full House episode that introduced the Beach Boys, which was kind of dumb. But Brian Wilson is in it, and he was not well, we know, at the time. So that was pretty cool that he made it. Speaking of documentaries, the Amy Winehouse documentary is on my list. I fell asleep when I saw it in the theater. For the first 10 minutes, I was knocked out because it was 100 degrees outside and I needed the air conditioning of the theater. But it's a great documentary. It's too bad that the movie was reportedly not very good, the narrative film. Robert Eggers' The Witch, I really like. The VVitch. That's a horror movie I can handle. It's very good. And then because it's funny, I always think of this movie as being a Bill Nighy movie, but it's actually a Ian McKellen movie. It's called Mr. Holmes, about Sherlock Holmes after he retires. It's a lot of fun. It was directed by Bill Condon. It's a very Bill Condon-y movie. I mean, if you take like Beauty and the Beast out of it, it's a Bill Condon-y movie. It's more like also if you take Kinsey out of it, it's got a lot less sex than Kinsey.
Because I don't think Mr. Holmes has a lot in common with Dreamgirls.
I haven't seen Dreamgirls, but it's
Bill Condon is this movie really?
He's directed so many movies. But when I think of Bill Condon, I think of Mr. Holmes. Ian McKellen's really good in this.
Once you say that though, like, damn, is that not Bill Nighy? No, yeah, it's Ian McKellen. Yeah,
Ian McKellen. All right, so my number 10 is Ryusuke Hamaguchi's Happy Hour. It's a movie about 4 women dealing with lady stuff in Japan. This movie is 4 hours long. We talked about it in our episode on The Cure because I was just mentioning Hamaguchi stuff because I think he's really neat, and we were talking about Japanese movies, so I took advantage of that. Happy Hour is awesome. So there's a scene in this movie where they're all doing like an improvement workshop, like a way to improve their communication skills and stuff like that. And you just watch the whole workshop go down. And there's a scene in the movie Evil Does Not Exist that reminded me a lot of that. And I really need you to see Evil Does Not Exist. You need to watch it already.
Trying to, yeah. Working on it.
So I've said this before and I'll say it again. Denis Villeneuve makes a movie. I put a Denis Villeneuve movie on my list. Sicario is my number 9. This is my least favorite of the American Villeneuve movies, which is to say it's amazing. He's so good. There's a scene where this group of ATF and special forces people are coming back from Mexico at the border, and it is one of the most tense scenes you've ever seen. Benicio del Toro, you won't know whether you want to give him a hug or murder him after watching this movie, and then almost certainly Emily Blunt's best movie ever, and a great early before his breakout role for Daniel Kaluuya.
And Josh Brolin too is really good at this.
Brolin's great. You can very much see that he is not a tall man in this movie, that he is framed in a way that exposes that he's short.
Yes.
My number 8, we were saying before we came online for this that like some of these things on this list I'm not like totally sure about. My number 8's one of those. I need to rewatch it, but it's The Big Short. And it's one of those, might be a situation where I love Steve Carell so much that anything he does, I love. This one, I don't know. I'm like, is this a little reductive? On the other hand, I'm a big defender of the Adam McKay dramas. I don't think that he's up his own ass at all. Yeah, maybe it deserves its spot here, but it's Steve Carell, Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale, unbelievable cast, as with most of the Adam McKay movies about the financial crisis of 2008. And I don't know. I like it, I guess. Maybe it's a little high. Number 7 might deserve to be a little higher. It's a sleeper comedy, Sleeping with Other People. I love this movie. So I think Jason Sudeikis needs to make more movies. He's really good. And he doesn't like this and Colossal. I want to see more from him. This was directed by Leslie Headland. It stars Sudeikis and Alison Brie, Adam Scott, Jason Mantzoukas, Natasha Lyonne. Like, what a crazy cast. And it sounds like it's one of those, like, Justin Timberlake or Ashton Kutcher, like, can they be friends? Do they need to be in a relationship? But it's handled by people who, like, do real comedies, not these, like, comedies made for no one. I really, really like this movie.
Actually, this is actually one of my wife's favorite movies, and she introduced me to it a couple years ago. And yeah, it's excellent. It's very, very good.
Megan has good taste. My number 6 is The Lobster, the first Yorgos Lanthimos movie I saw. It's weird as hell. Colin Farrell lives in a time when, if you are single for too long, they turn you into an animal. So you have to find a partner. And if you haven't found a partner, you go to this place where they find you a partner. If that doesn't work out, they turn you into an animal. His brother has been turned into a dog. He says he wants to be turned into a lobster if he has to turn into an animal. But he meets Rachel Weisz at a place where you can hide away to be single. I don't know. It's bizarre. Just watch it. It's weird. If you haven't seen it, just watch it. Kinds of Kindness. Well, yeah, it's Yorgos. Although Yorgos just got done making 2 like more normal movies in The Favorite and Poor Things, and then Kinds of Kindness, which I just watched, is much more like The Lobster than it is like than these. And that's because, much like The Lobster, Kinds of Kindness is written by, let's see if I can pronounce this, Efthimis Philippou. So all the movies that Efthimis Philippou has written with Lanthimos have this like just bizarre, everyone's autistic vibe. And I don't know, your mileage may vary. I think The Lobster is the best of these kinds of movies of his. My number 5 is a very polarizing Tarantino movie, The Hateful Eight. I saw this in the theater in 70mm with an intermission, and I was like, wow, what a cool movie. I then watched it on Netflix, the extended edition, which is broken up into 4 parts, and it's over 4 hours long. Not as good. The theatrical version is better. Great performances from Samuel L. Jackson, another guy who, like, do I hug him or do I kill him? Walton Goggins is incredible in this. Nice little role for Bruce Dern.
Jennifer Jason Leigh
is great. Michael Madsen's great. Tim Roth, small role. Damian Bashir showing up to just go bah, 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 a whole bunch. And a surprise cameo that most people know by now, but I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it. That's a lot of fun and then very gross. That's a cool movie. I like it a lot. I think it's underrated in Tarantino's filmography.
Agree.
My number 4 is another one where I'm like, did I like that as much as I think I did? But I remember I saw this in the theater with former guest Mike Tanzillo, and we walked out and we're like, wow, that was a movie. And that's Spotlight, Tom McCarthy's movie about uncovering the Catholic Church sexual abuse conspiracy. Wow. I've heard people recently say that this was really Michael Keaton's comeback, that Birdman isn't. And I'm like, come on, people, can we not do this revisionist history and pretend that Birdman is bad? Birdman's not bad.
Birdman's good and Keaton is great.
Yeah, and Keaton's also great in this.
Of course he is.
Mark Ruffalo's awesome. This is another great Rachel McAdams performance. I talked about her in 2013. She's really good here too. Liev Schreiber, always great. And then John Slattery, his typical charming self. And just like a really compelling journalism movie, unlike The Post, which I know you love and I don't understand it.
But I love Spotlight more. I think Spotlight is between the two, Spotlight is by far the better.
Well, okay, good. I'm glad that we've settled that. My number 3 is Inside Out, one of the best Pixar movies. Inside Out 2 came out this year. I think it is. I know you like it a lot. I know, and you know what? Most people I know who have daughters love it, but I think it just completely pales in comparison to Inside Out. And the fact that Inside Out exists makes Inside Out 2 a worse movie. If you saw Inside Out 2 not knowing that Inside Out existed, you'd be like, oh my God, that's great. And then you see Inside Out and you're like, oh, they can do that? Okay. It's just on another level. My number 2 is Mad Max Fury Road. He's so furry. He's so furry. I just saw The Wild Robot. And I don't want to say too much about it because I know you haven't seen it. But all I could think for the first 30 minutes of The Wild Robot is this is the first movie since Mad Max that has this kind of energy, like this kind of propulsion that like doesn't stop for so long. And I think that for decades we'll be saying, wow, this is like for Fury Road. It's got that kind of propulsion. This will be the standard bearer for that kind of thing.
Wow.
Wild Robot doesn't keep that up the entire movie like this does because it's not that kind of a movie. But just even the fact that they could do it for that long is very cool. And then my number 1, I don't know if this came out in America in 2015. Let me look. Nope, came out in America in 2016, so it wouldn't be on your list anyway, but I'd be surprised if it got this high up on anyone else's list either, is The Little Prince, an animated film adaptation of the book A Little Prince. When I saw this, I was just like so touched. It touched me. I don't know. I think it's underseen for sure. Definitely, it was nominated for Best animated film in 2016, right? No? Crazy. That's crazy. That's stupid.
That was a hard year to get into, though. I think 16 had Moana and Zootopia. The Red Turtle was that year. My Life as a Zucchini was that year. I can't remember what else, but it was a tough year to crack. It was like kind of dumped on Netflix at a weird time, and yeah.
The only movie that comes close that you listed, and I like Moana a lot, but the only movie that comes close is My Life as a Zucchini. I don't think Zootopia is even in Little Prince's league, and I think The Red Turtle is a cool experiment, but not that compelling of a movie. My cat is hanging out up there because he is so offended at how little love The Little Prince got. So that's my number one of 2015. Lay your list all over me.
All right. Well, we're gonna have quite a bit of overlap on our lists here, which I think is interesting because that's not always the case with us. But I have some interesting honorable mentions that I do want to throw out here. A couple that you did mention, Love and Mercy, like I said, is an honorable mention for me. But there's another music biopic that came out that year I thought was pretty good. Straight Outta Compton came out that year that Paul Giamatti was in. Of course, was very good in that. And it was kind of I don't think it was the first thing O'Shea Jackson was in. Was kind of his breakout.
I'm pretty sure that was his first movie.
Was his first movie? Okay. Either way, yeah, he was really good in that. Charlie Kaufman animated movie that came out the year, Anomalisa, I thought was really good. There was a Andrew Garfield, Michael Shannon kind of real estate drama called 99 Homes. Just talking about underseen movies. That was definitely an underseen gem. Have you seen that?
Never even heard of it.
Amazing. I'll send you a link to it afterwards. Like, you would love it. I mean, Michael Shannon just going crazy. There's a horror movie called It Follows that I think is kind of sequels coming out to, which is really, really cool. The Martian, like you mentioned, is an honorable mention for me too. Alex Garland's Ex Machina was an honorable mention for me that year. Really, really cool movie. I also like Creed a little more than you did. I know we talked about Creed recently, but Creed is in my honorable mention for that year. I really like that movie a lot.
I like Creed.
Creed hits all the right notes for me. Another movie that's in my honorable mention that I feel like has been way forgotten. It was like a huge deal when it came out, but now people forgot about it, is The Revenant, where DiCaprio finally won his Oscar. And I remember it being like, at the time, I remember thinking like, yeah, it's pretty good. But it wasn't like, it's not amazing. And now I feel like people have like totally forgotten it, which is fine.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like it was punishing me. I'm like, what did I do? What did I do that made you do this to me? This is so boring.
I have like no desire to watch it again at this point. It's in my honorable mention list. Oh, and also there was a big Netflix movie that came out that year that they tried to push for some Oscar nominations because it hadn't happened at that point. Idris Elba's Beasts of No Nation came out that year, and Idris Elba is just phenomenal in that. He won a Screen Actors Guild Award that year. Didn't translate into any Oscar love, but it's a really good movie. And then my number 10, like I said, we're gonna run into some overlap here because my number 10 is Denis Villeneuve's Sicario. Super tense movie, great performances across the board. Del Toro should have been nominated for this, and he wasn't. Blunt probably should have been nominated for this, and she wasn't. Just a really great movie. My number 9, a movie that came up on your 2013 list, but was a 2015 by my rules, is Tangerines. Just a small, beautiful movie. Like I said, about a very big topic, big subject coming to a very small area, and we like movies like that. Number 8, you also mentioned, is the Hateful Eight. I don't know if I put that in my number 8 spot to be cute, or if it just happened to fall there. But my wife and I were talking too about doing the Netflix, the 4, breaking them up, watching it like that, which we might do because we're gonna probably run through the Tarantino movies here. We just haven't done them in a while, so it might be fun to do that. So my number 7 is when you got to The Big Short, and you're like, my number 7 is that movie where I'm going, really? Is Steve Jobs, which I love Danny Boyle and I love Michael Fassbender. And I remember thinking like, man, Fassbender is great in this. And like, I thought the supporting cast was all really good in it and that it was an interesting story. I don't know, just thinking about it now, like it doesn't, I don't know, I just remember feeling, but I remember feeling at the time that it was great, but I don't have like the same sort of feelings for it. So I don't know how I would hold up on a rewatch.
If I can give my 2 cents, I think that movie stinks. I don't think anything you said about it is wrong. Everyone is great, but everyone is doing Sorkin and they're like extra Sorkin-y in it. I actually think Fassbender like channeled Jobs really well, but the cadence of the speech, here's my problem with Sorkin movies in general, but Steve Jobs in particular. Why does everyone's speech have the same tempo? You're all different people. You shouldn't all talk exactly the same.
Interesting.
Cool. We talked about this recently, but or I mentioned it on our Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf episode. But His Three Daughters is a movie that makes a very strong decision to have everyone talk in a very idiosyncratic way. But the three daughters, even though they all speak idiosyncratically, they don't all speak the same as each other. They all have their own different way of speaking weirdly. But in Steve Jobs, everyone's like like watching. I felt like I was watching Steve Jobs in the newsroom. It's like, just get it out of here.
Yeah, I never saw that show or any of those shows. Still ended up as my number 7 just because I haven't. That's just where the list stands right now. My number 6 is a film from Hungary. It's called Son of Saul. It's it's an Auschwitz film. It takes place in 1944, and it's just about trying to survive. Won the Best International Film Oscar that year, so it's a tough one, but it's very, very good. My number 5 is a film by John Crowley. It's called Brooklyn. It's a love story. It's got Saoirse Ronan, Domhnall Gleeson, Emery Cohen, Jim Broadbent, Julie Walters. Amazing cast. Wonderful love story. Just so sweet. Just the costumes in it are great. I mean, you might, the locales, the Brooklyn, the New Yorkness of it all. It's a very New York movie. Have you seen it?
It's a period piece, though, isn't it?
It is period piece, yeah. It takes place in the 50s.
Yeah, so I think a lot of Brooklyn has changed quite a bit. It's like very much on the cusp of gentrification. So,
but yeah, it's just a terrific movie. I love Saoirse Ronan in it. Just wonderful. My number 4 is the aforementioned Spotlight, which we talked about. We've mentioned all the great performances in it. It's a terrific journalism movie. Just, very good across the board. Number 3 is Todd Haynes' Carol, another 1950s period piece taking place in New York. It's a love story between Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, both of whom are terrific. Both were Oscar nominated that year. And then my number 2, again, these are both going to be familiar movies. My number 2 and 1, I don't know, I could probably, or they could flip-flop on any given day. My number 2 I have is Inside Out, which I agree, with everything you said. I do like Inside Out 2. I think it's very good. I probably like it a little more than you do, but yeah, Inside Out 1, it just blows it away and blows away a majority of animated films and most films. I mean, I think it's just a masterpiece in every possible regard. And then my number 1 is Fury Road, which we watched again recently. My wife had never seen it, so we watched it before Furiosa came out, and it's still just an adrenaline rush from start to finish. Just what a cool movie.
I love the way that Furiosa has recontextualized it too. Like, you could watch it in either order, I think, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's take a gander at what year we're going to do next on YouTube. You might see a different year pop up because we're still doing them as we're doing new episodes. But it looks like, I don't know, for sure, we need to do 1983. So I think that'll be next.
All right.
Because that was the episode where you gave me Never Say Never Again for some reason.
Because I'm an asshole.
Actually, that one's going to be tough because that year sucks. Like, that's just a bad year for movies. So we'll see if we can scrounge something together.
At least get a top 5 or something.
Yeah.